Well, right now, let's talk making the most out of your soybean harvest here this fall. Joining us for a conversation, he's a retail sales agronomist in Iowa with Brevant Seeds. Tony Mollers joins us here today on the program. Tony, good to have you back with us again here this week. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, as always, Jesse, happy to be back on the show.
Well, let's talk soybeans. And first, top of mind, how are soybeans looking in your area there? You cover much of Northwest Iowa in particular. How are things looking in your territory, Tony?
Yes, that's correct, Jesse. I'm up here in the northwest corner of Iowa, and that's a big question. Depending on where you're at up here, things look very different. We have the areas that were planted quite early, right? We see soybeans getting planted earlier and earlier, it seems like every year. So you have those mid-April planted soybeans, and then we have that mid-June planted soybeans in some of these areas that we experienced some of the historic flooding and excessive moisture this spring. So things are a mixed bag this year. But one thing that I think we're really starting to see here the last few days is a lot of the early maturity soybeans really starting to hit maturity and starting to turn here. So I would expect harvest is upon us over the next 10 days, a couple of weeks or so. We're going to see harvest, I think, within soybeans kick into high gear before too long.
All right. Well, I know some things that we keep an eye on closely during a growing season here as of late. One of those SCN, soybean cyst nematode, is a huge problem in many fields. What have farmers been saying about Peking varieties and more for SCN resistance and some of the newer Brevant brand varieties? Talk about that for us, Tony.
Yeah, soybean cyst nematode, that's one of those pests that at times it's really easy to forget about. It's something you don't always see. We're not always digging up soybean roots and taking a look at what's happening in that below ground portion of the crop. But no doubt, as you look at the past couple of years, especially across the state of Iowa, soybean cyst nematode, that's a conversation that is very quickly grown across the region here. And soybean cyst nematodes is absolutely one of the number one yield robbers in soybeans. And so you look within our portfolio, and we offer a really balanced portfolio of full Peking varieties, as well as the traditional 88788 soybean cyst nematode gene as well. And you very quickly have seen a progression towards full Peking varieties. And that's simply because we're seeing the results of that technology in these really high cyst pressure acres.
Well, what can farmers do to get the most out of their soybean harvest here this year? What are some tips, tricks, advice you would share with folks as we're rolling through harvest season?
Yeah, a couple things I would keep in mind as we start to close the books and move into harvest on 2024. And then immediately we'll start right back in and making plans for 2025. And depending on where you're at, you may have agronomic factors where you can start to see how things are performing. But in the case of Northwest Iowa, in a disease, for example, like white mold, you may not have the looks this year, as pressure this year seems to be quite low. And so what I would say is more important as we go into 25, make sure you're working with your local experts. Make sure you're working with your local ag retailer and that you're selecting the varieties that have all of the characteristics that you need to build out a successful 25. That might be white mold. That might be IDC, and that might be Peking. Right. So depending on what those needs are, make sure you're building a crop plan that includes those Brevant varieties that give you the best of all worlds.
And I'm sure, Tony, if folks want more information on their local retailer that has Brevant products or they want to learn more information, they can go online as well. A lot of great ways to get in touch, isn't there?
Absolutely. I recommend you go to Brevant.com and see what we have to offer on our website. And as you said, stop in and have a conversation with your local ag retailer, as I know they're excited to tell you about what Brevant's got for 2025.
retail sales agronomist for Brevant Seeds in Northwest Iowa, Tony Mollers. Tony, always good to have a conversation with you, sir. Thanks for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jesse, and everybody have a safe harvest.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. There, you can watch our latest interviews with the top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. Just go to youtube.com/markettalkag and hit the subscribe button, or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.